So today we're making a completely eggless sponge finger, also known as Savoiardi biscuits in Italy, traditionally used to make tiramisu and lots of other desserts. So in this particular recipe, traditionally it is made with eggs, but as mentioned, we're making it completely egg-free. Now in the traditional recipe, you would take both the egg whites and the egg yolks, and then they're processed in a way and then combined together into the sponge to create a nice, light and fluffy texture. Now, because we are not using eggs, we have to use some unique ingredients to create the same texture. I'm going to go through all the steps with you today. Now, it's important when we are using eggs, often people think of eggs as an ingredient, but it's really like using a machine, a system, and we've got to think of it as the same way when we make it completely egg-free. So I've gone ahead and mise en place both my vegan egg yolk or plant-based egg yolk and also my egg white preparation. Now I'm going to start with the egg yolk. Now I am using an egg replacer called Panisegg, and Panisegg is a whole egg replacer, but it can also be used as an egg yolk replacer, and it's so important in this recipe because it's going to stabilize our egg foam, so once we incorporate our flour, it's not going to collapse. Now when you start working with eggless recipes, this is one of the biggest challenges that we have when we start creating foam sponge cakes, is the collapsed volume in that foam that we create. So using an ingredient like Panisegg is really going to change the game. It also has unique ingredients that are going to not only stabilize but also coagulate and give the texture and silkiness and setting that we are looking for in this recipe. So what we're going to do here is I've already prepared my water component, and I'm just going to add my Panisegg into that, along with some light vegetable oil. Now, because we are not using eggs today, we don't have any fat, so this is replacing the fat that you would find traditionally in the egg yolk. And we're going to mix all of that together. And I'm just going to set that aside for a few minutes to hydrate before we add our sugar. Now moving on to our egg white replacer, we are using Potato Protein CW, which is an instant potato protein. And essentially what this is just a combination of potato protein isolate and a bit of xanthan gum to stabilize the foam. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that powder straight to my bowl. And what I love about the Potato Protein CW is it acts instantly, it has the stabilization, and it's going to not only foam but also emulsify. So into my bowl, we're also going to be adding our sugar component. And I'm just going to give that a quick mix just to disperse the powders. And go ahead and add my water component. And I want to just start to get everything mixed together. Don't worry if at first, when you're mixing, it looks like there's some clumps that are going to dissolve. So now on a low speed, I'm just going to start mixing this together for a few minutes until we get it nice and foamy and it starts dissolving. And we're essentially just creating a meringue. Now if you're using a stand mixer, I would mix it on a low speed for about a minute or two and then turn it up to the medium speed. Because I'm using a hand mixer right now, the low speed is kind of like my medium, so I'm just going to keep it on that nice low speed and whip it until we can see some peaks. Yeah, I think this is good. It's just flopping over, it's not super stiff, so I'm happy with that. We can set that aside. Now going back to our egg yolk replacer, so that was with our Panisegg, oil and a little bit of water. You can see that it's already changed color, and that is from our new formulation with the saffron in there. So it gives a nice authentic egg yolk color as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add my sugar component, and we're going to give this a whisk until everything's nicely incorporated. You'll notice that I am actually getting a bit of volume as well once I've added that sugar and we're whipping it. So another great unique property of the Panisegg is it does also foam. So you can see that it's actually become quite pale. It's going to be a lot thicker than traditional egg yolk, but that's completely normal. So So a lot of traditional Italian sponge cakes don't actually use leavening agents. That's why eggs were traditionally used to create the foam or the leavening component. And that's exactly what we're doing here today. So now that we have our egg white and our egg yolk component assembled, what I'm going to do just to loosen up my egg yolk is just to put a little bit of the white in there, and I'm just going to fold it through. I just want to loosen it so when we combine the two, it's going to combine very easily. So I'm just folding everything together. And even though that there's oil in there, it's not collapsing. We're getting a nice stable foam. Okay, so it's loosened the texture a bit. I'm going to add all of that to our egg white component. And we're just going to fold everything together. So we've got a beautiful thick foam. Now all there's left to do is add our dry ingredients. So for our dry ingredients, we simply have some all-purpose flour, a little bit of salt, and a very small amount of baking powder. And the baking powder, we're only using more as a flour conditioner. So in the same way that you use fabric softener to make your towels nice and soft, it's just going to make the flour softer, so you get a softer sponge. But our volume and our leavening is almost exclusively coming from the foam that we just created. So I'm just going to give this a bit of a whisk just to make sure those ingredients are incorporated well. And we're going to sift our dry ingredients in about, I'd say, like 2 additions for this recipe. And just folding in between each addition. I actually find working with the egg replacers are a lot more stable than even traditional eggs. So it takes a lot of the guesswork out. You don't have to worry too much about that foam collapsing. Don't worry if you can see a few lumps. Just keep folding. All right, we can go in with the last bit. Okay, that looks like it's incorporated well. I can't see little bits of flour anymore. So we can pop this into our piping bag. You can also just pop it in a bag and then snip the end off to your desired size, but I find this works really well for the lady fingers or sponge fingers. And I'm just going to fill up my bag just with half of this batter, just so it's a bit easier to pipe. So I've just lined a baking tray with some baking paper. Now I will put in the recipe. You can get yourself a pencil and draw a grid for yourself when you're piping these, just to make it a little bit more accurate, especially if it's your first time making ladyfingers. Because I've made this so many times, I'm just going to do this freehand. But yeah, essentially you want them about the length of your finger, and we're going to go ahead and start piping these out now. And now we're going to go ahead and dust with some confectioner's sugar. Now this is going to stop them from cracking and also allow them to kind of like expand more easily. Alrighty, and we're going to get this going into our preheated oven for a few minutes. Probably need a couple more minutes.